Hey guys, it's Miss Robinson, and today we are going to have a little literature circle. Basically, what a literature circle is I'm going to introduce a few books to you. I'm going to read the first few pages to see kind of what you think about them, and then at the end, you're going to answer the question below. The question says, "What book would you might be interested in reading?" And so you're just going to share with me which book you're most interested in. Make sure you pay attention to what book number it is because that's how you're answering the question. You're not answering using the title until question number 2. Question number 1, you're just going to tell me what book number you like. So make sure you're really following along with this video. Okay, let's move on. So our first book that we have, that's book number 2. Oh, okay, sorry. Book number 1 is Before We Were Free. I'm just going to read a few pages to you, and you can kind of see what you like. You'll notice that there's a few pictures in this book, right? They give us an idea about some things. So let's read the first page or two together. Okay, chapter 1, The Eraser in the Shape of the Dominican Republic. May I have some volunteers? Mrs. Brown is saying. We are preparing skits for Thanksgiving, 2 weeks away. Although the Pilgrims never came to the Dominican Republic, we are attending the American school, so we have to celebrate American holidays. It's a hot, muggy afternoon. I feel lazy and bored. Outside the window, the palm trees are absolutely still, not even a breeze. Some of the American students have been complaining that it doesn't feel like Thanksgiving when it's as hot as the 4th of July. Mrs. Brown is looking around the room. My cousin, Carla, sits in the seat in front of me, waving her arm. Mrs. Brown calls on Carla and then on me. Carla and I are to play the parts of two Indians welcoming the Pilgrims. Mrs. Brown always gives the not-so-good parts to those of us in class who are Dominicans. She hands us each a headband with the feathers sticking up like one rabbit ear. I feel ridiculous. Okay, Indians, come forward and greet the Pilgrims. Mrs. Brown motions toward where Joey Farland and Charlie Price stand with their toy rifles and the Davy Crockett hats they've talked Miss Brown into letting them wear. Even I know the pioneers come after the Pilgrims. Anita, she points at me, I want you to say, "Welcome to the United States." Before I can mutter my line, Oscar Massini raises his hand. Why the Indians call it the United States when there was no United States back then, Mrs. Brown? The class groans. Oscar is always asking questions. United States, somebody in the back row mimics. Lots of classmates snicker, even the Dominicans. I hate it when American kids make fun of the way we speak English. That's a good question, Oscar, Mrs. Brown responds, casting a disapproving look around. She must have heard the whisper as well. It's called poetic license, something allowed in a story that isn't so in real life, like a metaphor or a simile. Just then, the classroom door opens. I catch a glimpse of our principal, and behind him, Carla's mother, Tia Lara, looking very nervous. But then Tia Lara looks nervous. But then again, Tia Lara always looks nervous. Poppy likes to joke that if there were ever an Olympic event for worrying, the Dominican Republic would win with his sister on the team. But lately, Poppy looks pretty worried himself. When I ask questions, he replies with, "Children should be seen, not heard," instead of his usual, "Curiosity is a sign of intelligence." Mrs. Brown comes forward from the back of the room and stands talking to the principal for a minute before she follows him out into the hall where Tia Laura is standing. The door closes. Okay, so that's book number 1, Before We Were Freed. Book number 2 is going to be The Only Road. Are you ready? Book number 2. We're going to read the first few pages together, and then we'll move on to book number 3. Chapter 1. From the kitchen came a piercing scream. The green-colored pencil slipped, streaking across the almost finished portrait of a lizard Jamie Rivera had been working on for the last half hour. As he jumped to his feet, a wave of dizziness hit him, left over from the fever that had kept him home from school that morning. It took a second for his vision to clear. His hands braced on the sill of the glassless window that no longer held the posing lizard. He took a deep breath before bursting into the kitchen. The wailing only grew louder. No, 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 please, no, he thought. It couldn't be. Couldn't. It had to be something else. Please. Kay. Jamie stopped short. Mama was slumped on the plastic table, crying into her arms. Papa stood behind her, with a hand on her back. Despite his quiet stance, his broad shoulders were hunched, making him look as distraught as Mama. At the sound of Jamie's entrance, Mama looked up. Streaks of black, brown, and tan covered her normally perfectly make-upped face. She beckoned him closer, pulled him onto her lap, and held him as if he were 2 instead of 12. Papa's strong arms encircled both of them. For a second, Jamie allowed himself to melt into his parents' embrace. But only for a second. Dread twisted his stomach into a knot. It had happened. Something he'd feared for a long time. He had convinced himself with all his might that it couldn't happen, because he didn't have anything to offer them. But they obviously disagreed. They had made that clear 2 weeks ago. If only he were wrong, and it wasn't that at all. The incident that had happened 2 weeks ago came back to him. His former friend, Pulgita, had called over Jamie and his cousin Miguel as they were walking home from school. Ooh, that one sounds very interesting. This one is book number 2, The Only Road. All right, book number 3, Internment. This one's very interesting. I've actually read this one. Internment. This is book number 3. Chapter 1. I strain to listen for boots on the pavement, stomping, marching, but there's nothing, only the familiar chirp of the crickets and the occasional fading rumble of a car in the distance, and a rustle so faint I can't tell if it's the wind or the anxious huff of my breath. But everywhere it's the same as it's always been. The perfectly manicured lawn of Center Square, the gazebo's twinkling fairy lights, the yellow beams from the porch lamps at every door. In the distance, I see a funnel of smoke rising into the air. Most of the town is at the book burning, so I should be safe, or at least safer. I don't measure time by the old calendar anymore. I don't look at the date. There's only then and now. There's only what we once were and what we have become. 2.5 years since the election. 2 years since the Nazis marched on D.C. 18 months since the Muslim ban. 1 year since our answers on the census landed us on the registry. 9 months since the first book burning. 6 months since the exclusion laws were enacted. 5 months since the Attorney General argued that Korematsu versus United States established the precedent for relocation of citizens during times of war. 3 months since they started firing Muslims from public sector jobs. 2 months since a virulent Islamophobe was sworn in as Secretary of War, a cabinet position that hasn't existed since World War II. 1 month since the President of the United States gave a televised speech to Congress declaring that Muslims are a threat to America. I thought our little liberal college town would fight it longer, hold out. Some did, but you'd be surprised how quickly armed military personnel and pepper spray shut down the well-meaning protests of liberals in small leafy towns. They're still happening. The protest turns riots. Even though the mainstream media won't cover them, the resistance is alive, some say, but not in my town, and not on the nightly news. That is Internment. Okay, the last one. This is one of my personal favorites. It's a great book. Let's go ahead and read the first few pages. The first chapter is called Warm Up. Dribbling at the top of the key, I'm moving and grooving, popping and rocking. Why you bumping? Why you locking? Man, take this thumping. Be careful though, 'cause now I'm crunking, crisscrossing, flossing, flipping, and dipping will leave you slipping on the floor while I swoop in to finish with a fierce finger roll straight in the hole, swoosh. The title of this one is Josh Bell. Josh Bell is my name, but Filthy McNasty is my claim to fame. Folks call me that because my game's acclaimed. So downright dirty, it'll put you to shame. My hair is long, my height's tall. See, I'm the next Kevin Durant, LeBron, and Chris Paul. Remember the greats my dad likes to gloat? I balled with magic and the goat. But tricks are for kids, I reply. Don't need your pets, my game's so fly. Mom says, your dad's old school, like an old Chevette. You're fresh and new, like a red Corvette. Your game's so sweet, it's a crepes Suzette. Each time you play, it's all net. If anyone else called me fresh and sweet, I'd burn mad as a flame. But I know she's only talking about my game. See, when I play ball, I'm on fire. When I shoot, I inspire. The hoop's for sale, and I'm the buyer. And that is book number 4, Crossover. So you've listened to all of the books that we've read today, 1 through 4, just the beginning few pages. Now you're going to answer the question below and let me know which book sounds most interesting to you. Talk to you guys later. Bye.